Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. I'm John Langs. I'm the Artistic Director of ACT Theater in Seattle, Washington. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge that ACT Theater sits on the land of the Coast Salish people, and that we honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it, including the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present. They are this land's first storytellers, in whose footsteps we walk. So our story tonight begins in the before times in 2019, when ACT was introduced to the good people at Trial and Error Productions. They're a Seattle-based company with the mission to support astonishing artists. And with a strong overlap in mission, ACT Theater and Trial and Error came together, intending to launch a series of workshops and public readings in order to give support to the incredibly talented community of local playwrights. And then the pandemic hit, and we had to take a step back from presenting these readings in public. But the work on these plays has and will continue in a series of workshops taking place over Zoom. And when ACT Theater can share stories in person again with Trial and Error Productions, we will come roaring back with a series of public readings and hopefully a full-throated production or two by some of these fine local contemporary playwrights. And I want to introduce them to you now.
My name is Holly Arsenault.
My name is Andrew Lee Creech.
Hi, I'm Keiko Green.
I'm Brendan Healy.
Katie Forget.
Amontaine Aurore.
My name is Yusuf El-Gindi.
My name is Kirsten Potter.
There's some fantastic playwrights in this city.
There's actually a ton of them.
I think that it's time that we paid a lot more attention to the talent that's here.
It's hard as a local playwright to actually feel like some of the bigger theaters are listening to you or giving you a shot.
I think that there are so many really talented people here.
It's what we've always been asking for, and so it's really exciting to me.
I love the fact that ACT and Trial and Error Productions is doing this.
We have the audience, we have the intellect, we have the artists.
For some of us playwrights, I think it'll be a great opportunity to get in front of a different audience as well.
There is something distinctly different about the energy of an audience who loves to come to new plays.
I think it's so incredibly valuable for established theater audiences to be reminded of where theater comes from.
I'm so excited.
I echo that sentiment. I'm so excited. We are 5 plays into this workshop series, and we have 3 more to do before the end of this year, and the work has been extraordinary. So this evening, we have the pleasure to spend some time with 2 great artists who work in our Seattle community, director Ameenah Kaplan and playwright Amontaine Aurore. Trial and Error and ACT had the honor of introducing these artists, and it was deeply rewarding to watch as they were drawn together while working on Amontaine's fascinating, powerful, and timely play, The Ever-Expanding Moment. And we're delighted to share with you a conversation between the 2 of them. And at the end of this conversation, you'll have a chance to ask your own questions. You can just drop them in the question and answer box below, and we'll get to them as we can. And finally, this evening, I just want to call your attention to this slide, which is an encouragement to donate. Now, our community has always been a generous one. And with all that's happening in the world, and we're, 3 or 4 days away from this election of a lifetime, I think the art we make and the stories that we tell ourselves are more important than ever. So please join me in donating to ACT so we can continue to give our full support and energy to the great work of these artists. Thank you so much. And here now are Amontaine Aurore and Ameenah Kaplan.
Hey, Amontaine, how you doing?
Hi, Ameenah. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's good to see you, if only virtually. So we went through this little process together, and I know we're going to dig into it. But honestly, I don't know very much about you as a playwright, and I would love to know a little bit more before we kind of dive in talking about the play, because we did get kind of smashed together serendipitously. But what would you like the audience to know about you as a playwright?
Well, first of all, I would say that I started out as an actor, and that's kind of important in the journey that I took. But there came a point where I felt like I was coming up against some barriers, and that I wanted to expand more. And so I wasn't finding the kind of roles, I guess, that I wanted to really, I could feel like I could really dig my teeth into. So I decided to be the change that I wanted to see in the world. And I figured if I was going to ever experience those roles, then I better try and create them. So that's why I started writing. And I started primarily doing solo shows. And so my first solo show I did in 2006. It was called Waiting for Billie Holiday. And then from there, I created about 5 or 6 more shows, and I performed them all over Seattle. I went to New York a few times. I went abroad, and I had a ball. I got to be characters that I would never normally be cast in, because I got to write them for myself. And I got to sing, I got to dance. It was a wild ride. And then at some point I found that, again, I was coming up against some barriers, and I wanted to expand out again, and I wanted to create roles for other actors that they might have access to more complex characters. So I started writing ensemble pieces, and I've done that for the last couple of years. And my work, I would say, primarily, not always, but mostly focuses on issues of injustice or social justice and inequities. And those are the things that I like to explore in my work.
You said you were coming up against barriers. What kind of barriers were you experiencing?
I just felt that as a Black actor, the kinds of roles that I was getting access to were not varied enough. I didn't feel like they actually really represented the breadth and depth of Black people or the Black experience.
Okay.
And so yeah, I wanted to create characters that were like the people that I knew in my life, my relatives, my friends, and get those people onto the stage. So, Ameenah, please tell us about your work as a director. You're phenomenal, and
well, thank you.
I really want to hear more about your journey.
Yeah, when I was listening to you talk, I was like, man, you're a way better actor than I was, because I too am a performer, started out as a performer. I had the acting bug for years and years and years, and eventually I just kind of didn't have the bug anymore, but I really had the bug for storytelling and for show creating, creating live experiences for audiences to come and trip out on. So that's what I wanted to do. I'd been choreographing for years in LA, and was just trying to parlay that into a longer, hopefully more lucrative directing career. I don't know. I think I found my lane a little bit. I'm having a good time as a director, and I think I found my lane because I just feel like the road is so long out there in front of me for the potential of what I can do as a director. And I didn't feel the road was as long as an actor.
A question I have for you then is, are you finding then those projects that you feel passionate about and really want to bring out and direct?
That's an awesome question. And I have to say, in short, the answer is yes. I honestly feel like there is a paradigm shift happening, of which I am trying to take full advantage. And for as victimized or neglected or forgotten as I may have felt in the past, and definitely felt in the past, I have felt really honestly very supported as a director. And not that it has been without its challenges, and we can talk about that, like being a woman in charge, even I think more so than being a Black person in charge, but being a woman sitting at the head of the table or in the director's chair has been truly one of the most challenging experiences of my life and professional career. So I'm not trying to say it's been easy. I'm trying to say it's been fulfilling and rewarding. And I have been feeling that support. And frankly, I feel that support from this organization that's put us together with ACT. You know, John Langs has been incredibly supportive of me and called me out of the blue to direct something at his theater back in 2016.
The Royale.
Yeah.
And I know that this takes place in 1905. It's loosely based on the life of Jack Johnson, the boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And you spoke a little bit about the rhythm of the play. And I think I also heard you say in some sort of interview that the rhythm actually becomes a character in the play.
Oh, yeah.
Can you speak a little bit more about that?
So this play just spoke to my heart immediately. I first came in contact with the play actually in 2013 out in LA. I did the original choreography on it and sort of created the concepts for, you know, how the stomping would represent the punching and all of that, and had a wonderful collaboration with the writer, Marco Ramirez, and the original director, Daniel Auken. I just thought we made a really, really good team. And my goal was to not do really anything that we had done before, but I wanted to reimagine it from a director's point of view. So rather than us making body percussion rhythms during the play like we did in the world premiere, I decided that rhythm would become a character that was more heard rather than seen. And so that was everything from the applause of the audience as the boxers came in, to the way they stomped and punched each other, to all the radios that we had around the space that were sort of doing all the news broadcasts. I just wanted it to feel like a musical, like, you know, this sort of percussive musical that was just throbbing in the way that the character Jack Johnson was sort of throbbing. He was so young and just so full of fire, and the actor that was playing him was equally full of fire and awesomeness like that, and just raging and just ready to just rock and pump. And so, you know, it was a very visceral experience for me. And again, I'm just super grateful to the writer, Marco Ramirez, for writing such a awesome play that had so much space in it, in which, you know, for a director / choreographer to create. And again, we would have had nothing without the play, without Marco, because I certainly did not think to write that play, but he really gave us a gift with it. And so I just felt like I'm gonna put my foot all the way in it. And I feel like John was very supportive of me doing that, and so was the cast. And so it was really fun and rewarding experience directing it, for sure. Wow. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Do you feel supported out there as a writer?
I do finally. I not for a lot of years though. It took a while, but it wasn't something where I was going to stop because I wasn't being supported in the way that I wanted to be. I knew that it was something that I was going to keep doing. And the main reason for that is because I was finding qualities within myself that I didn't know were there before I started writing. When I write situations and characters, you know, I'm always looking to extend compassion to my characters and to try to understand them in order to write characters that are multi-layered and complex.
Yeah.
Whereas in my regular life, I'm not necessarily Amontaine the citizen isn't necessarily always trying to understand people or trying to be compassionate, especially with people that I disagree with. And so, but as a writer, I found that I had to find that compassion within my characters. And as I was looking for that in the characters that might be very different from who I am, I found that those people exist within me as well. And so, yeah, it's a whole unexpected revelation of parts of myself that I would have never come in contact with, I don't think, if it wasn't for writing in particular and art also as well.
Yeah, man, I so relate to what you're saying, just on a personal level. You know, like I was saying, describing it as my lane, I definitely feel like I am trying to achieve my best self as a director, and that this is the lane for me to do that in. But I also see that in your play, like, the play that we did, The Ever Expanding Moment, like that description of yourself as, finding the compassion, the empathy in your characters, like, honestly, like that was one of the things that drew me to the play out the gate, because we are in such, a polarized time right now. Everyone is just so black and white, frankly, that to see someone, who recognize the yin and yang of it. And what I love about that symbol, I know I've said this before, is that it's a perfect circle, but it's not just black and white. The colors bleed into each other. And then there's that awesome hole that's there, which is always the third option. Like, when all else fails, come up with a new idea, as opposed to giving up or destroying it all. And this is kind of a principle that I'm trying to live my life by. And when the country got so polarized, I was kind of like, what are we doing? Like, don't we realize, and I could just see, people being thrown away because they had a difference of opinion. And I just was not down with it. And the way we were so polarized was really distressing to me. And when I read your play, I felt hopeful. I felt like I'm certainly not the only one feeling this way, that like the way forward is empathy and compassion, and not necessarily violence and division. But I was really, really doubly pleasantly surprised by the way you drew these characters. And I'll have to say, in particular, the white male cop character, because it's so not us. It's so different from us. Right. It's so not our voice and not our experience. And I thought you did a really wonderful job of making him into a human being. And I appreciated that.
Thank you. Well, I have to say that having you as the director in this workshop was really revelatory to me. I was so pleased to be in the Zoom room with you and to watch you work and to watch you pull apart the piece and to dig deep, and to the way that you worked with the actors and getting those performances out of those actors. I have so much respect for what you do. You're really wonderful.
Well, thank you, Amontaine. I'm all over here blushing. I heard a little birdie told me that you've been produced quite a bit in Seattle. And I was wondering if you wanted to talk about, any particular piece that was your favorite, something that, really introduced you on the scene in Seattle.
Sure, yeah. I think we do have a clip from a play that was the newest play that I did in Seattle. In 2019 was our production of it at the 12th Avenue Arts, and it's called Don't Call It a Riot. It is a play, it's kind of a love letter to Seattle. I was born and raised here, and Seattle is a place that there's quite a bit of direct action and activism that has taken place here that a lot of people don't know about. And so I wanted to bring some of that out. So I have a play, Don't Call It a Riot, is placed in 1968 during the year that the Seattle Black Panther Party was founded. And then Act 2 jumps to 1999, which was the eve of the WTO protest, more famously referred to as the Battle in Seattle. So I couched it in real life events that happened here in Seattle, but I used fictional characters. And the two main characters, Marty and Reed, they're two women who have been, they've been best friends all of their lives. And in Act 1, 1968, they have both joined the Black Panther Party. And then 30 years later, they haven't seen each other in like 30 years, and they meet up again during the eve of the WTO protest. And it's like they've like, you know how it is when you just fall back in with someone that you has been your best friend and you've bonded with. You just start, it's like there's no time has passed at all between you, and you start reminiscing about the old days. And that's basically what this clip is about.
You and your Batgirl flick and your little patent leather shoes.
Now wait a minute.
You love you some Batgirl. Admit it.
Okay, well name me one young girl at the time who didn't. No, I mean, come on. No, she was an actress. She lived in New York city. She had a cute boyfriend, a cool apartment. Hell, no, I am not ashamed. No, but no, I was not wearing patent leather shoes. Oh, was I? Oh.
Listen, it's 1966. We are the cutest we'll ever want to be. The Cultural Revolution is hot and heavy. Our first double date with two stone cold foxes and the most conscious brothers after you. I'm trying to impress, dropping knowledge on the brothers, quoting James Baldwin like there's no tomorrow. Then here you come, stepping out of your house looking like a big old cornball. Excuse me? Like you stepped right out of the Brady Bunch. You embarrassed me.
Yeah, very funny. No, what about you?
Well, now see, I was what you would call a fashion trendsetter back then.
Yeah, so that big afro wig you had on.
Very in style.
That thing was so big no one could find your face.
Don't be jealous now.
No, I am jealous in no way. No, but do you remember when you and Davis went on the roller coaster that night? And your wig came flying off and it went straight down under the tracks. And there you were with this little head sticking
Right, I forgot all about that.
You don't think that was embarrassing for me?
Okay, you got me with that one. But listen, all the other times, you were the embarrassing one.
I'm so glad I remembered I had this little baby hidden in the back shelf. So much smoother than coffee. You know, if my daughter were here, I'd dare her to say something disparaging about my little baby. Although, if there are bourbon slave labor factories, I'm sure she'd know all about it. Reed, no, are you sure you won't join me?
I don't drink anymore, but you go right ahead.
I wish I had your willpower. You know, I've got a lot of pressure on me. I mean, my constituency, they expect so much. I mean, I'm just one little person. They seem to think I've got magic powers, you know, to just wave a wand. God, they have no idea what I go through on a daily basis. Now, so if I want to come home and have a drink or two to relax, I feel like that is my business. I don't find anything wrong with it. I'm all by myself most of the time in this big-ass house anyway. You know, the Skip's working late or gone for the weekend on one of his beloved golf tournaments. You know, I told him he should just take a mistress. It's probably cheaper. And for Lala. Well, she doesn't need me anymore. I am thinking about getting a pet. You know, something that'll love me unconditionally, but that doesn't need too much attention, you know.
Well, how about a turtle?
I kind of wish I'd known you back then because I'm a little jealous that I didn't get to work on that piece.
Oh, that would have been wonderful.
But the piece that we did, the ever-expanding moment, was equally as awesome. And you know, Karen Malina White and Lorenz Arnell were two of the actors in that play. And we're gonna see a clip from that, I think. And do you want to set that clip up for us? What we're gonna see?
Sure. It's a 3-character play. There are the main characters are a young Black man and a cop, and the cop ends up killing the young Black man, and they end up in the afterlife together. And in this afterlife, it's called the ever-expanding moment. Many things can happen. So time is malleable. In this scene, he is in a scene with his mother. So we get to see like the relationship that he had with his mother, sort of the experiences that colored his viewpoints and his belief systems while he was here. And I think that, well, you'll see the scene, but I actually think, I really love this scene. These two actors are wonderful.
Awesome, let's check it out.
So what's the plan?
Same as it's always been.
That's your child, right?
Yes, of course.
And you must provide for your child and the mother of your child, and you can't do that on your part-time waiter job.
No.
So?
Son,
it's clear to me you have to drop out of college. Get a full-time job to support this new family that's on the way.
Wait, I'm sorry. How did we get there so fast?
You tell me.
I'm close to finishing. A year and a half and I've got my business degree. Look, I just need you and Pops to help me a little while longer with the tuition. I'm almost there.
Jamal, you know I would do anything to help you succeed.
Would you?
Of course.
Right, of course.
We would be doing you no favors bailing you out of your responsibilities.
I can't stop now. This is my dream.
You have to choose. You have to do what's right.
Okay. I know you told me umpteen times how hard you think it'll be to own my own restaurant and to make it a success. And I told you that I realize that. But I'm willing to put the work in no matter what it takes.
You are not listening.
That's only the first part of it. Business school has opened my mind to so many possibilities. Okay, I have this idea. Once I open my first restaurant, I want to start hiring and training people who need a second chance. Brothers and sisters that have made mistakes and can't get the foot up.
You mean like felons?
Don't say it like that. Everybody makes mistakes. I was in trouble once before too, you know.
And I thank the Lord every day you've never done anything like that again.
But I was lucky. I had you and Pops. Do you know what happens to people when they come out of these jails and prisons? They let them out on the streets with no money. If they have no family willing to help, most of them have no place to go. Most of them can't even get a job with a record. They've done their time, but they're still paying. Basically, they're going no place but back inside. But if they get a second chance, and I mean a real second chance.
Jamal.
Ma, I want to make it an educational thing, a real world experience. And at the same time, drop knowledge on them, teach business, teach them about money. Our people need to understand money. I believe capitalism can be profitable and compassionate too.
Jamal, don't get me wrong. That's a beautiful idea.
So what?
What do you plan to open this restaurant with? It's going to take a lot of money.
I don't have that completely figured out yet.
I see.
No, you don't. You shooting me down before you even heard me out.
Son, it's wonderful to have dreams. But when Nona got pregnant, things changed. Nobody's saying you have to give up on your dream forever. You can go back to school later when things are more stable.
Right, like you did.
My situation was completely different.
No, I have to do this now.
What you have to do is be practical.
Just because I'm dreaming of something bigger for myself doesn't mean it's not practical. Why are you doing that?
What?
Pretending like this is some random thought I just suddenly had. I've been talking about this since high school. I've been studying business, working hard, been at the top of my class this whole time, worked out a detailed business plan, everything. You know this. Okay, maybe it's like 5 years down the line before I can open a restaurant. Maybe 5 years before I can open up another one.
I think it's time you and I take a trip to the store when you can make a detailed business plan of what fatherhood calls.
There it is.
Jamal, you've got a baby coming. You have no idea what that means. The things that babies need, what things cost, diapers and food and car seats and doctor appointments and prenatal vitamins.
My whole life.
And what's that?
Put me in a box.
Am I the one who couldn't keep my zipper up?
Ma!
Am I the one so reckless to get somebody pregnant while being totally unprepared to care for a child?
Forget it. You never understand.
Oh, goodness.
Look at Pops out there. Did he get a new pair of jeans?
Yep.
They look good on him. You know you messed me up, right? You and Pops, y'all messed me up.
How so?
My entire life, this is all I heard. Son, you have to be better and brighter just to be considered equal in this world. Make sure your clothes are pressed, your heels are good, your hair is neat and combed when you leave the house.
No, that's just terrible. It's a wonder you didn't have us burned at the stake.
Go to church, pray to Jesus, do your homework, raise your hand in class, know the answer before anyone else.
You are really trying to change the subject.
You know, someday when I'm old, this will be the memory of Pops that I remember the most. Saturday mornings, bright and early, out there mowing the lawn, trimming the hedges, planting dahlias in the flower bed. That lawn as neat as our hair, as clean as our fingertips.
Something wrong with having a nice lawn.
Not in theory, no.
It's time to grow up, Jamal. You have grown-up responsibilities on the way.
Tell me something, Ma. What has all of this combing and scrubbing and polishing done for you and Pops? Because you may think it makes you presentable and acceptable to white people, but when they look at you, they still see a nigger.
Jamal!
I won't live my life trying to please white people.
What in the world are you jabbering about?
I can do everything I'm told, obey the laws, be spotless from head to feet, but it doesn't matter. It won't erase the fact that when I was born, there was an assumption of guilt imprinted on my body. Going to church 3 times a week and praying to a white Jesus to wash me clean won't change that.
We're horrible people now because we gave you integrity and principles to live by. Is that what you're saying?
You keep me in a box because I was born in one and you don't want me to forget that. That's called not stepping out of bounds, keeping me safe and protected, loving a Black child.
I'm not listening to this.
Ma, please, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I know you love me. I know you tried to teach me the best you know how. You only want to protect me. And I'm sorry I'm not the son you wanted.
I don't even know what you mean by that.
I'm different. I always have been. And that's been hard on me. I fought it most of my life. I wanted to fit in, wanted to be accepted, be loved like everybody for being everybody else. But finally, I realized that's not my calling. God made me who I am for a reason. Nona and I, we realized we made a mistake. But it's not the end of the world. And I won't pretend it is by giving up my goals and dreams. I love Nona and she loves me. So we agreed on something.
And what is that?
I'll stay in school. She'll keep living at home for the time being. Her parents will help with the baby until I finish and get my degree. It's settled. And if you and Pops won't help me, I'll find another way. But you are not calling time out on my dreams. Not this time.
I love that scene, Amontaine. So I'm wondering, like, first, what was your inspiration for, the mom character? Why was she a first lady in the church? Like, what was that about? And then in terms of the son, like, what drew you to him being like a chef and wanting to have like a restaurant business as opposed to anything else? Yeah, what were your inspirations for their dynamic?
I think that the mom wasn't originally in the first draft of this play, but the more that I realized that it would be important to sort of know what Jamal's life was like before he got to the ever expanding moment, the more I realized that we needed to have some kind of a character in there that would fill him out a bit more and fill out his life and his experience more. And the mother, she's tough, she is tough, but she's really supportive. Like I guess I would say like maybe tough love, but then she's also has a very gushy, I guess, core, I would say. Whereas, there's these kinds of mothers that I'm familiar with. And I would say my mom's kind of like this too, where, they appear tough on the outside, but they really have such a very soft part to themselves. And I wanted that for Jamal. I wanted him to have a lot of love in his life. And it was important to me that he have love and support, and that he not just be, a character out here struggling and, downtrodden. And I wanted him to have a good background. And I felt that gave him also more layers, particularly like when he starts to get into some trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because I think so often one of the things that we complain about, we, people of color in our business, is the narrow range of ideas about what we are as a people. And so often there's such a spotlight on our troubles and our victimization and all the trials and tribulations that we go through. And not a lot of attention is often paid to the fact that some of us, came from suburban upbringings, and the color of our skin is something that we obviously have to deal with as we march through life. It gets, whether you like it or not, you are going to learn that you are a Black human in America. But that doesn't mean A, that you're a criminal, or that you ever were or ever would be, and or B, that you are unloved, or that you came from a bad background. And so often what I hear when someone innocent like Jamal gets killed is like, well, what did he do wrong? Or what kind of background? And it's just like, first of all, even if you were selling loose cigarettes, that's no reason to get choked out in the middle of the street, first, A. And secondly, what's the rush to judgment like that, where the assumption is that we couldn't possibly have had a good upbringing or come from a good background, otherwise we might not have gotten into this trouble. And I think that you draw that very, very astutely and very finely in this play. Yeah. His mom being a first lady, which is something that I personally find really fascinating, is just women who grow up as frankly, the queen of the church, the mother of the church, and what their whole sort of subculture belief system is about. But you're right, it's like they have to have a huge heart. Otherwise, how could they be the mother for an entire congregation? Often when we see, a young Black guy getting arrested on TV or whatever, you see it online or whatever, I feel like the punishments that are given out to these guys is as if they are completely worthless, as if they had no ideas about the future, as if they couldn't be redeemed or rehabilitated, as if they're caught with, a sack of weed or whatever, that a slap on the wrist isn't enough, And so a lot of times you see these guys getting thrown under the jail, literally, and you'll see their white counterparts. I mean, there's literal video footage of a white jock in college raping someone, and then the judge is like, "You're a young man, I know this is a phase in your life." And it's like, what? Like, somehow this kid has this incredible future, but this young Black kid couldn't possibly. And I really appreciated that aspect of the character too, that he was aspirational. And he was aspirational because he was young and fresh and vibrant and human, and he deserved a place at the table of recognition for being that. And it was that was one of my favorite aspects of the play, was how unpredictable Jamal was, how you couldn't pigeonhole him, how you couldn't say, well, look what happened to him. Then you see it, Ahmaud Avery, similar situation, Breonna Taylor, similar situation, Philando Castile. I mean, these were not people, Sandra Bland was on her way to a job interview. So it's not like you can say that these people were derelicts or criminals. They literally were just existing while Black.
Right, exactly. But there's always the momentum to like sort of find out, well, what were they doing wrong? Well, there must have been something, there always has to be some reason. And of course, that's because these things are happening with impunity. And so we have to find rationalizations and excuses for why people are being shot down in the streets and in their homes.
Well, because otherwise you can't believe that you're sitting on your sofa doing nothing about it. Like, clearly there must be, like, if you consider yourself to be a good person, well, clearly they must be doing something, they, meaning us, must be doing something wrong, because look at the rate at which they're being incarcerated, or look at the rate, and it's a very, very difficult thing for one to turn that mirror back on themselves, which brings me, of course, to the character of the cop, Victor. I think that one of the things that the play does so beautifully is force a mirror in front of this guy. And whether he likes it or not, every time he tries to dodge, the mirror just keeps coming up in front of his face till eventually he has to look at it. And in looking at it, you offer, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful things in writing and in this play and just writing in general, which is the possibility for redemption. That we don't just have to throw each other away, that if we see each other through each other's eyes, then there is an opportunity for empathy, compassion, to use your words, and redemption. And that's not to say that this cat is excused for what he did. That's not to say that he could not have made a different choice, or that he couldn't, all of it, like that his whole thing could have been different. That's not what you're saying. I didn't take it that way at all. The way I took it was that human beings deserve redemption, you know, in general, on the face of it. And we lose sight of that in this cancel culture, frankly, on both sides of it, you know. And I love that you were not trying to cancel white men, or cancel police officers, or cancel the rule of law or anything. You were also not trying to cancel first ladies or cancel young Black men. I believe that you were saying that these entities can exist in the same space at the same time, provided that we recognize that there's room enough for everybody, and that we really don't have to extinguish each other. Now, again, we're gonna cut the edges off the bread, like there's a few folk we need to, you know, push on out, but we do that. We as a community, we do that. And these archetypes are not those people.
Well, thank you for saying that. Writing the cop was the most difficult part of this whole thing. And it sort of goes back to Amontaine, as a citizen of the United States, is not necessarily the most compassionate person in the world. You know, I'm not, you know, the perfect human being who rises above everything. But as a writer, I get an opportunity to do that. And I really didn't know what was going to happen. What would happen at the end? I mean, it took me a long time as I'm writing it to like, okay, I was just trusting. I was having a lot of faith that when I got to the end, I was going to figure out this whole thing. And I would say that a big part of what led me to that particular ending was looking at restorative justice and what is being done, rather than just throwing people in jail or writing people off. Like, what are the things that are being done? What are the tools that will actually rehabilitate someone? Because that is what is missing in our criminal justice system. Is we've lost sight of how to rehabilitate people, and that this, I think, is the answer to solving a lot of the problems that we have. People are broken. People are, you know, suffering from a lot of maladies, and people are acting out in violent and despicable ways. And what is the answer to healing that person and healing the society?
100%. Yeah, and for me, again, I think it is that mirror. It's that opportunity to like look at oneself, like you give the cop, like you give him the opportunity to look at himself and to see what his background was and how he formed into the man that he became. And he is, I think, at the end of the play, I think that he is you set him up to be in the right headspace to begin that journey of redemption, because we're actively in this moment right now in 2020. And I like it that you put us down that path towards a blueprint for a better mankind, as opposed to, frankly, preaching to the choir. Because, you know, all of us liberals or whatever, we of course, it would be very easy to just slam the cops into, you know, but instead, I think you took a much, much higher philosophical road, which was to envision him as a member of an entire race of people to which we all belong. And that if he's crap, chances are there are other people who are crap in amongst us. And we can't leave we cannot, I mean, again, cut the ends off the bread, but most of us cannot be left behind. Otherwise, we will see what we have right now, which is factions of people, forming because they feel left out. They feel, disenfranchised. And of course, we know these feelings very well. And, they feel unheard. And frankly, they have been in a rut themselves, this rut of what they thought they deserved, who they thought they were, and how they thought their lives were going to turn out. And I think that you were very keen in understanding things from their point of view. And like you said, it was, it's enlightening, isn't it? When you get to experience that. And I like the idea of you being so honest that like in real life, you're not as compassionate as you are as a writer. But again, that's the brilliance and the genius of writing. If you're going to write real people on the page that we buy, as opposed to stereotypes who pander to a certain demographic or a certain audience, then you have to have that empathy and that compassion. And you do in spades, Amontaine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to wrap this up a little bit and just see, if what your thoughts are for the future of the ever expanding moment. Like, do you want to see it produced, and how would you like to see it produced? And yeah, just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely want to see it produced. I think that it's a very timely play.
Yeah.
And I think, it's been timely for a while, and it's probably going to be timely for a time to come. But, right now, when we're really as in mass grappling with these police killings that are coming to our attention rapidly, more and more and more each day. I think that this play it has a lot to say to the moment. So I really would, I would be thrilled to have it produced fully.
Well, if you are looking for a director, I think I might be available. So just put my name on the list. And yeah, and because I would love to collaborate with you again, because I think the piece is not only timely for now, but it's forward thinking as well. And that's really what makes it awesome, is that it's really not preaching to the choir. It really is speaking to a great audience, a vast audience, and a future audience. So I really hope that it gets produced as well, Amontaine.
I'd love for you to direct it.
I'm yours. I'm all yours. Well, this has just been an awesome chat. I'm super glad that we got to spend some time together, if
So
virtually.
glad I met you.
Yeah. Because it was really fun doing that short week that we did together. So I just felt like we just kind of fell right into a groove and worked really well together. So I look forward to more in the future with you.
Yes. Thank you, Ameenah, so much.
My pleasure. And thank you.
Good to see you again.
You as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gail Bensler. I'm the Director of Marketing here at ACT, and I'm here live with Amontaine Aurore. Amontaine.
Hi.
There you are. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so glad that we get to have you here live. Unfortunately, Ameenah couldn't make it today. She's in rehearsal, you guys, so there's a really good reason why she couldn't make it. But it's time for our audience Q&A. And if it's okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
So if you guys have questions for Amontaine, please go ahead and type them in the Q&A box below. And we will try to get to as many of them as we can tonight. So I kind of want to keep on the theme of the ever-expanding moment. And one of the questions that I had, and I think maybe a lot of people are wondering about, and John kind of talked about this a little bit at the top of the program, but part of the experience with ACTLocal for the Playwright is that 29-hour workshop, that opportunity to really dig in deep with the work and see it and touch it, I think, for the first time with actors.
Yeah.
So the workshop for the ever-expanding moment didn't take place very long ago. And I just kind of wanted to find out exactly what happens during workshop time for a new play.
Well, in this specific workshop, we met for 5 days in a row. You know, of course, there was getting the actors and the director and the stage manager on board. And then, you know, once you're all together, and of course we did it by Zoom, which is a little bit different than what I've experienced before. So, you know, you read the play a few times through, and then just discuss it, discuss the themes, discuss the characters, get clarification on things, just really dig in. And then from there, you just the actors begin to, with the director, rehearse the piece and go over the scenes and just get deeper into the play in general. For me, it was a really fascinating process, and I didn't really want to be forefront in the process. I wanted to just sort of step back. And so I was quiet for most of the workshop. You know, I would chime in if people had questions or needed clarification. But for me, I've lived with the play for months. And so I know what I think about the play, you know, just from my own perspective. But I wanted to hear the actors. You know, of course, that's so important. I can read it to myself, but it's not the same thing as actually having actors do it. Plays, of course, don't live on a page. They have to live in people. And so that's a very important aspect of having a workshop. And these actors all three of them were wonderful. And I learned a lot. I just learned a lot about, I think one of the hardest things for a playwright is hearing for the first time somebody else reading your work, and maybe their interpretation of it is different than how you interpreted it. But once I got over that hump, I learned so much. You know, everyone brought a perspective that perhaps I hadn't seen before, and so I learned. You know, I heard it, the flow and all of that, and I could see what was working, what needed to be modified. Sometimes the actor would say a line wrong, and I would be like, "Oh, that sounds better, though," you know, and I would incorporate that. And then at the end of that workshop, then we had a reading with a small group of people over Zoom, of course, and then it was wrapped up.
Well, that brings me to another point, though. I mean, you're talking about the actors and hearing the words for the first time and what that experience is like. So I'm wondering, when you write a play, who are you writing for? Is it the actor, the characters, the audience, yourself, something else, somebody else? Kind of take us there.
Yeah, having been an actor, and the reason I started writing was because I wanted to write good roles for myself and for others. I would say that, you know, I'm writing for, it's natural and instinctual for me to write for actors / characters. I'm not sure how to exactly separate the actor from the character in this process. So, you know, I love actors. I want actors to have great things to say and fascinating situations to interact with. And the characters, of course, have to originate somewhere within me or maybe outside of me, I'm not sure. But I find those characters, you know, they'll speak to me a lot of times. So yeah, I would say basically actors and / characters are important to me, more important to me, I guess. It's the thing that most inspires me. I'll put it that way.
Okay, well, given that, and given all of the work and care that you put into the process of writing and the workshops and your audience, the who you're writing the play for, JW wants to know if you have any words of encouragement for early career playwrights. That's I think a really good question. I think,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who are interested in that process out in our audience.
Right, right. I would just say, write what you feel, write what's important to you, write what motivates you and inspires you, not what you think will sell or what's popular, or, I think I think that to keep going really, and to find reason and motivation to keep going, that's what I find in myself is it's important to me. The things that I write about are important to me. And so even if nobody sells it, or, nobody's particularly showing any interest in it, it keeps me going, knowing that I'm doing this because it's important to me. So I would just say, if writing is what you love to do, if that's your passion, if you feel it's a calling, just always be true to yourself, right? Not what you think other people are going to like or accept, but what is true for you.
Amy wants to know, again, given the discussion that you and Ameenah had about the ever-expanding moment and about our current times, she's interested to see how you feel when you see some of the stories that you're writing about actually play out in real life, and in ways that people are not only talking about, but are actually out taking action. How do you feel when you see that happen?
When I see the stories that I'm writing about actually taking place? Well, I mean, for instance, the ever-expanding moment, that was something that I felt compelled to write because of what I had been seeing in the news and what is happening in the world. So that injustice motivated me to write about it. So when I keep seeing it happening, of course, nobody wants to see, I don't want to see that, I've just about had my fill of these killings, and I don't know how much more we're supposed to take. But I think that through the writing, what happens for me, it's a way for me to actually express what my concerns are, what my feelings are, how I would like to see the world change. And so I guess for me, it's absolutely necessary to write about these things.
Well, it's almost as if those reactions kind of in this place and time with COVID might not take the place of having an audience, but might be something of a substitute for performing a work or having a work produced in front of an audience. And Allgood, one of our core company actors, wants to know if you're mishearing the audience response. When in your workshopping does that become as important as the actors giving voice to your words?
The response of the audience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when do you miss it? When do you miss it in the process, I think is what she's getting at.
Oh, yeah. I miss it desperately just in life. For me, theater is all about the audience and the performer. It's about the energetic exchange, and that has to happen in person. So I have been pretty distraught in some ways about not knowing what is going to happen in the future, how long we're going to be unable to gather. But for this particular process, I was not looking for an audience at this point. I was really looking to develop the work. So the work in development is very different than presenting the work. But at some point, of course, I want the work to get out to the audience. That's what it's all about.
Definitely. And again, I think getting that feedback as an artist, I would imagine would be really, really important.
Yes.
Especially to maybe the expansion of the work, or, So kind of in that vein, Sarah Kate wants to know what you're working on now. Do you have scripts in the works? What are the stories that you're looking to tell next?
I am working on a solo show for myself. It's been a long time since I've been on the stage. It's been a few years, and I miss that. There's a fundamental part of me that is a performer, and so even though I've been writing and I've been directing and I've been more behind the scenes, there's a certain kind of a rush that I don't experience unless I'm actually out on the stage. So I'm working on a one-person show, and it's kind of just like I guess I would say it's a retrospective of African-American history, seen through a particular woman's experience. It's hard to talk about because I don't want to say too much about it.
You don't want to give anything away.
I don't want to say too much about
Play
it.
spoiler-free zone.
But that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on next.
Do you think that you're going to be on the stage more as a performance artist or actor, or do you see yourself writing? I mean, how are you balancing that? And that's our last question.
Well, okay. Well, writing is what I do. So even if I'm out on the stage, most of the time it's something that I've written. But I would like to have, I love directing too. And obviously I love writing. I love all of it. I love theater. So I think a balance of all of those different things that I do is best for me. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that you have the opportunity to do all those things and to do the things that make you feel passionate and to bring that to all of us. I know that the Ever Expanding Moment is just starting to be produced. We just workshopped it. There are lots and lots of questions about where people can read it and how they can see it. We'll try to get to those answers maybe in a follow-up email, along with a lot more questions that we didn't get to today.
Oh.
But Amontaine, there are some really good questions here we weren't able to get to. So if you don't mind, maybe we can talk about a couple of them after on the flip side, I guess, as they would say.
Yes, I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed today. I know I enjoyed the entire little bit more than an hour. So we're going to wrap up. Amontaine, again, thank you so very much for being here. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Wow, what an incredible night that was. But before I let you go, I want to tell you what we have coming up at ACT. Join us on November 15th for a very special evening as ACT, in partnership with SA Teatro, brings you virtual live reading of playwright Marisela Trevino Horta's new play, Shoe. So in a double wide trailer in Texas, the oldest daughter of a tight-knit Mexican family is caught in the role of caretaker for everyone. Will she take a step towards freedom? Get your virtual seat now. And of course, A Christmas Carol is on sale too. The cast just wrapped recording our audio play last week, and now we're in post-production getting it ready for you. This is going to be a magic experience, full of all the joy of the holiday season. You'll be able to stream this radio-style audio play on demand beginning November 27th, but get your tickets now for the very best price. You can find information about tickets and all the programs that we have coming up on our website. That's acttheater.org. And don't forget that when you support ACT, you support the arts. Help us to continue to bring you the programming you love this year, next year, and into the future. Donate today. We're delighted you were able to join us and take some time tonight to spend some time with us. So on behalf of Ameenah, Amontaine, John, and all of us at ACT, we hope you have an amazing evening and a happy Halloween.